Hello everybody, Canadian Planespotter here, and this is Aviation News. Let's begin the show by talking about any accidents or incidents that happened this week. First up is an Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 737-800 from Addis Ababa to Entebbe, Uganda, which overran Entebbe's runway 17 on landing. Passengers were uninjured and the aircraft sustained no damage. A Turkish Airlines flight went off the runway in Lviv, Ukraine. The 737-800 was backtracking for departure when it slid off the runway into the adjacent snow. The passengers and the aircraft were unharmed. An Aeromexico 737-800 landed on Guadalajara's runway 28 after a flight from Mexico City when smoke and fire appeared from the landing gear. All four main wheels had ground down to the runway. Passengers did not have to evacuate because fire services were quick to extinguish the flames. An INDIGO Airbus A320neo was climbing out from Chennai International in India when one of its engines emitted a loud bang and streaks of flame, followed by severe vibrations. The crew shut the engine down and returned for a safe landing at Chennai. A Republic Airways flight operating on behalf of Delta Airlines was at cruise altitude over the northeast United States when the pilots received a fire indication. They decided to divert to New York's John F. Kennedy Airport and landed safely. Upon inspection of the aircraft, fire services revealed that a hot coffee pot was the cause of the fire indication. And lastly, there was a pretty funny incident involving a Boeing 767 of Azure Air. The flight was en route from Moscow to the Dominican Republic when it diverted to Shannon, Ireland because the lavatories were full. What a crappy reason to divert. Moving on now to route news. Eritrean Airlines has launched a new flight from Asmara, the capital of Eritrea, to Djibouti. The flight will operate twice weekly with a Boeing 737-300. The inaugural flight was on January 4th. And on January 7th, low-cost carrier Flynas inaugurated a new route from Jeddah to Ha'il, Saudi Arabia. The flight now runs once daily on an Airbus A320. Now let's talk about aircraft orders and deliveries. JetBlue Airways from the United States has just finalized an order with Airbus for 60 A220-300s. The giant aircraft leasing corporation Aviation plc has just ordered 8 new ATR-72-600s from Aerospatiale, which they plan to lease to other airlines. Airbus received an order for 60 A220-300s from a U.S. startup airline codenamed Moxie. Moxie is led by David Neilman, a prominent entrepreneur in the aviation industry who founded JetBlue Airways and Azul Brazilian Airlines. Qatar Airways executive has just taken delivery of its first 2 Gulfstream G500s. These private jets will be used for private charters and flying the Qatari royal family. And finally, African carrier Air Botswana has just taken delivery of its first Embraer ERJ-170. Now on to aviation business. The troubled times continue at Indian carrier Jet Airways. As it is reported, the airline defaulted on most of its loan repayments to banks in 2018. Its credit rating has slipped into the danger zone, and Jet Airways stock fell 6.2% on the Bombay Stock Exchange on Wednesday. Brussels Airlines has terminated its contract with Irish carrier CityJet early, citing issues with the Sukhoi Superjet's on-time performance. Brussels Airlines is not the only one with this complaint, as Mexican carrier Interjet is phasing out their Sukhoi Superjets, citing reliability concerns. CityJet has provided flights on behalf of Brussels Airlines since 2016. Qatar Airways purchased a 5% stake in its new Oneworld partner China Southern Airlines this week. China Southern recently quit SkyTeam in favor of the Oneworld alliance. Independent aircraft manufacturer Boom Supersonic has just announced that they closed a $100 million investment for their new supersonic airliner, the Overture. In other news, Southwest Airlines co-founder Herb Kelleher passed away on January 3rd at the age of 87. Kelleher pioneered the low-cost carrier model of business, which is widely used in today's aviation industry. Istanbul Ataturk Airport lives to see another day. Well, actually, another 2 months. The airlines and their equipment were supposed to move from Ataturk to the new Istanbul airport on October 31st of 2018. However, this changeover was delayed until December 31st, but it still hasn't happened. The massive logistical puzzle is scheduled to take place on March 1st or March 2nd of 2019, and it will be the largest overnight asset move in the history of the world. With the UK's secession from the European Union looming, Ryanair has been granted a British Air Operator Certificate, so it can fly domestic flights within the UK and from the UK to other non-EU destinations. But if the UK and EU cannot reach agreements on other aspects of civil aviation, the passenger experience from March 31st onward will be in a transition period, let's say. Australian flag carrier Qantas has taken the crown this year for the world's safest airline. AirlineRatings.com hands out this award every year, and it takes into account the most important factors for safety, such as the airline's crash and serious incident record, fleet age, and the results of government safety audits. And finally, U.S. airline California Pacific has ceased its operations from its main hub at Carlsbad, California, citing the nationwide pilot shortage as the cause. This means California Pacific is temporarily shut down. Unfortunate, since it began operations in November of 2018. Well, that's all I have for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Tune in next week for more aviation news.